Dhanavat Pranam. Namaste. All glories to Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shradev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 30. Sa evedam sasharjagre Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Sadasadrupaya Chaso Gunamaya Guno Vibhu. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. Purport from Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The position of the Lord is always transcendental because the causal and effectual energies required for the creation of the material world were also created by him. He is unaffected, therefore, by the qualities of the material modes. His existence, form, activities, and paraphernalia all existed before the material creation. He is all spiritual and has nothing to do with the qualities of the material world, which are qualitatively distinct from the spiritual qualities of the Lord. Text 31. Tayavilashi tejveshu guneshu gunavan iva anta pravista abhati vijnanena vijrambita. After creating the material substance, the Lord Vasudeva expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. Purport. The living entities are separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and the conditioned living entities who are unfit for the spiritual kingdom are strewn within the material world to enjoy matter to the fullest extent. As Paramatma, the eternal friend of the living entities, the Lord, by one of his plenary portions, accompanies the living entities to guide them in their material enjoyment and to become witness to all activities. While the living entities enjoy material conditions, the Lord maintains his transcendental position without being affected by the material atmosphere. In the Vedic literatures, the Shruti, it is said that there are two birds in one tree. One of them is eating the fruit of the tree while the other is witnessing the actions. The witness is the Lord and the fruit eater is the living entity. The fruit eater, the living entity, the fruit eater, has forgotten his real identity and is overwhelmed in the fruitive activities of material conditions. But the Lord, Paramatma, is always full in transcendental knowledge. That is the difference between the supersoul and the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, the living entity, is controlled by the laws of nature, while the Paramatma, or the supersoul, is the controller of the material energy. Text 32. Yatahya vahito vanir tarushveka svayonishu naneva bhati vishvatma bhuteshu ja tata puman. The Lord as Supersoul pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second. Purport. Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by one of his plenary parts, expands himself all over the material world, and his existence can be perceived even within the atomic energy. Matter, antimatter, proton, neutron, etc. are all different effects of the Paramatma feature of the Lord. As from wood, fire can be manifested, or as butter can be churned out of milk. So also the presence of the Lord as Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting of the transcendental subjects, which are especially treated in the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and Vedanta. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the bona fide explanation of these Vedic literatures. The Lord can be realized through the actual reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach the proper spiritual master with receptive ears only, and thus divine existence is gradually realized. The difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot. Aso guna mayer bhaver bhuta sukshmendriyanmabi svanirmiteshu nirvisto bhungte bhuteshu tadgunan. Text 33. The supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Purport. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being, Brahma, down to the insignificant ant, and all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. The gross material body is based on conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness, because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. He proposes that the Lord disposes. He proposes and the Lord disposes. In another sense, the living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. The sufferings and enjoyments of the sons are indirectly the sufferings and enjoyments of the Father. Still, the Father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering and enjoyment of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma, and always tries to convert the living being towards real happiness. Text 34. Bhavyat-yesha satvena lokan vailoka bhavana dilhavatar anaruto lilhavanatara nurato devatiryan naradishu. Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Purport. There are innumerable material universes, and in each and every universe there are innumerable planets inhabited by different grades of living entities in different modes of nature. The Lord Vishnu incarnates himself in each and every one of them, and in each and every type of living society. He manifests his transcendental pastimes amongst them just to create the desire to go back to Godhead. The Lord does not change his original transcendental position, but he appears to be differently manifested according to the particular time, circumstances, and society. Sometimes he incarnates himself or empowers a suitable living being to act for him, but in either case the purpose is the same. The Lord wants the suffering of the living beings to go back home, back to Godhead. The happiness which the living beings are hankering for is not to be found within any corner of the innumerable universes and material planets. The eternal happiness which the living being wants is obtainable in the kingdom of God, but the forgetful living beings under the influence of the material modes have no information of the kingdom of God. The Lord, therefore, comes to propagate the message of the kingdom of God, either personally as an incarnation or through his bona fide representative as the good Son of God. Such incarnations or sons of God are not making propaganda for going back to Godhead only within the human society. Their work is also going on in all types of societies, amongst the demigods and those other than human beings. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, chapter 2 of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Divinity and the Divine Service. Chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Sutta Uvacha Jagre Purursham Rupam Bhagavan Mahad Adbihi Sambhutam Sodashakalam Adoloka Shishrikshaya. Sutta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus at first there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universes. Purport. The Bhagavad Gita states that the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, maintains these material universes by extending his plenary expansions. So this Purusha form is the confirmation of the same principle. The original personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, is full with all opulences, all potencies, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. A part of his opulence is manifested as impersonal Brahman, and a part of his opulence is manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. There are 3 Purusha features in the material creation, and this form, who is known as Karna Dakshai Vishnu, is the first of the 3. The others are known as Garbho Dakshai Vishnu and Shiro Dakshai Vishnu, which we shall know one after another. The innumerable universes are generated from the skin holes of this Karna Dakshai Vishnu, and in each one of the universes the Lord enters as Garbho Dakshai Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also mentioned that the material world is created at a certain interval and then, again, destroyed. This creation and destruction is done by the supreme will because of the conditioned souls, or the Nitya Baddha of living beings, or the Nitya Baddha living beings. The Nitya Baddha, or the eternally conditioned souls, have the sense of individuality, or ahankar, which dictates to them sense enjoyment, which they are unable to have constitutionally. The Lord is the only enjoyer, and all others are enjoyed. The living beings are predominated enjoyers, but the eternally conditioned souls, forgetful of this constitutional position, have strong aspirations to enjoy. The chance to enjoy matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side they are given the chance to understand their real constitutional position. Those fortunate living entities who catch the truth and surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva after many, many births in the material world join the eternally liberated souls and thus are allowed to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. After this, such fortunate living entities need not come again within the occasional material creation. But those who cannot catch the constitutional truth are again merged into that Mahat Tattva at the time of annihilation of the material creation. When the creation is again set up, this Mahat Tattva is again let loose. This Mahat Tattva contains all the ingredients of the material manifestations, including the conditioned souls. Primarily, this Mahat Tattva is divided into 16 parts, namely the 5 gross material elements and the 11 working instruments or senses. It is like the cloud in the clear sky. The spiritual sky, the effulgence of Brahman is spread all around, and the whole system is dazzling in spiritual light. The Mahat Tattva is assembled in some corner of the vast unlimited spiritual sky, and the part which is thus covered by the Mahat Tattva is called the material sky. This part of the spiritual sky, called Mahatattva, is only an insignificant portion of the whole spiritual sky, and within this Mahatattva there are innumerable universes. All these universes are collectively produced by Karnadaksha Vishnu, called Mahavishnu, who simply throws his glance to impregnate the material sky. Thus ends our reading for today. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Arupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, all glories to Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Shripad Bhakti Niskam Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shripad Bhakti Vigyan Muni Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jai Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Nitai Gora Hari Hari Bol.
श्रीमन कृष्ण केशव